Yash, who are we in essence? You got to understand, the mind that's asking that question, it cannot understand that. How is the mind going to understand something deeper and so-called beyond the level of the mind? The mind can't understand that. The mind can't see that. The mind can see like emotions, the body, see forms, see you, see all this stuff. But it can't see the space in which this whole dance and creation is playing in. Can't see that. Where does that question come from then? I mean, it comes from the mind, but where did the mind, what would even the mind, how would it even think to ask that question? Who am I in essence? Let's take it to that level. Like, where did that come from? The mind can't even understand that, so why would it even ask it? Because God put this spiritual instinct in us to want to evolve, to want to recognize who we are beyond this virtual reality machine of mind, emotions, and body. And so this instinct, it's felt somewhere in the being. The mind grabs that because it grabs everything, you know. People that make videos about awakening and spiritual, the mind takes all that and then it tries to work with it. It tries to work with something that's beyond the level of the mind. It'd be like these ants that are crawling around. If it had the idea to knock me down or something. Like how? I'm bigger than the ants. The ants can't even understand me. Like they just, I'm on another level than the ants. Same. Mind, the consciousness that we are, the space in which the mind is able to function in, that consciousness is beyond the mind. Mind can't understand that. The mind can understand and is aware, you can say, of the fragrance when the consciousness is self-reflecting and it has some, in that self-reflection and consciousness, that self-awareness, there's some natural feeling of like peace and satisfaction and harmony. Those vibes start to come through the being. Then the mind recognizes that. And it says, damn, I want more of that. And so then it can start asking, like, because it learns through books or people talking or videos. It's like, I got to find my essence. I need to find out who I am. Because then it's telling me, these books and videos are telling me, if I know who I am, if I have self-realization, then I'm going to feel these good feelings all the time. So then the mind embarks on the spiritual journey, which is necessary. And then finally it fails because it can't do it. And then you come to some natural exhaustion with it, like Buddha. He just got tired. I'm done. And then all of a sudden that self-awareness or self-recognition, it becomes more powerful. Because the problem is the mind can eclipse that. It can seem to block it. It's still there, but it's not your actual experience. That recognition of your true self doesn't bleed through your human self. I'm military. They can't get me. That military sucked. God. Damn it. Nah, I'm cool. I remember. That natural recognition, the vibes and energy from that recognition, it starts to come through the being, and it's experienced through the emotional body and our glands and other ways as a nice, like, it's nice. I don't even want to put a word. You can call peace and bliss. Okay, whatever. It feels nice. So too much mind activity, even though you can say it's a higher aspect, purer part of the mind, when it's searching for its source and doing its sadhana and spiritual practice, even though that's good, it still activates the mind, and so you're focused more on the thoughts of like, am I doing my sadhana right? How much longer before I get awake? He's not spiritual. Oh, she is, though. Notice that? That's another thing. You got to check the motives. Like, and the spiritual realm's full of hidden motives. I remember they have these things sometimes around here. What do they call it? They call it like intimacy classes or something, you know. And so then you get the girls and guys in the room, and they're gonna hold each other and look each other in the eye, and you know, underneath all that, they're all horny as hell, you know. I think it'd be better just admit it, go have sex, get that stuff out of your mind, so then now we can actually pay attention in satsang instead of checking out like, ooh, they look good, ooh, they're spiritual. The mind and the ego hides in these tendencies that God put in us because we got to transcend them. That's the name of the game. That's why we're here. Duality, transcend. You got to be aware of something before you can transcend it, though. Okay, so for a while we can't help but use the mind to try to progress on the spiritual path, and it has its relevance. We do progress. We reach a certain point where it's time to like let the mind go. I like that analogy. You have a thorn in your foot, so you might need to take another thorn. So the thorn in the foot is our instinct and desire to awaken, to recognize our true nature. So the mind, we can use that as a thorn that's trying to dig that thorn out, and then it takes it out. I don't know if it's a good analogy, but I'm trying. It'll take it out, and then it throws both away. What does it mean, though? Let's say when it takes that other thorn out, but it doesn't actually take it out. That's the thing. That's why it's a bad analogy. But what I'm trying to make that symbolize is when Buddha, he used his mind and did all this super aesthetic, arduous practices to try to hurt the body and go beyond the body. And at some point, and he needed to do that. And at some point, it's like he just something realized, like, okay, this doesn't work. And so he threw that away, and the instinct to awaken threw that away too. So those are the two thorns. That's what I'm trying to say. And then there was just being left. So that's why I want to drive home, like, see, this is the problem with non-duality and self-inquiry and any Advaita teaching, because it's so direct that the mind can mistake that and think, well, I don't have to do anything. And it makes fun of the bhaktis and the people who meditate, you know, for years or in ashrams, and they're like, dude, you don't have to do all that. Like, here, I'm not real, you're not real, done. So that's the negative dualistic side of these teachings. And then you got a bunch of people running around like parrots, you know, imagining. It's their imagination that thinks they're awake. Somebody that's awake isn't thinking about being awake. They're just not. They don't want to make like awakening videos. I mean, I made some. I think because I'm trying to appeal, and you know what? Disclaimer, I'm not saying I'm awake. Like, you got to hear that. I don't care about it, and I'm not thinking about it, and I don't want to feel the pressure anyway if somebody does, but you can't help it. People who are going to think you're awake, they're going to think you're awake. Those who don't think you're awake, they're not going to think you're awake. You don't need to come on and say, I'm awake. Like, it's just silly. But I make these videos sometimes. I'm trying to, because I know how the mind works. The mind's really obsessed with awakening. And there's some purity to that. Again, it's that instinct God put in this 3D machine. Otherwise, we'd be totally lost, to wake up from it. You see? So then I'll make the video about awakening, but then I'll kind of debunk it usually anyway. Because, you know, who's going to be left to say they're awake? Now, there'll be some feeling, I mean, there's because you have a mind and you have memory, so you recall when you were your past, so to speak, and when you're trying, oh, I'm trying really hard, I'm trying, and oh, I'm like not trying now, but everything's cool. So Buddha didn't like disappear, and he didn't like forget all his arduous trials. See, that's necessary for the game. Otherwise, we couldn't help people. How are you going to help? If somebody, even the avatars, they got to go through some trial and tribulations if they're going to incarnate here. They need to, even if they don't have any personal karma, they're going to have to take some collective karma and make it their own so that they have something to transcend. So they have some friction. Otherwise, who's going to relate to them? There's never been a being who's been born and he's just been so-called awake from day one. And then who would come to him? Who could he help? Somebody would come, man, I'm really stuck and I can't stop smoking weed. He'll just forget about it. Yeah, but I really can't stop. Like I have this. Who's he going to help? You got to have some earthbound experience. You got to relate to the different levels of consciousness inside these virtual reality machines so that you can, that's part of the transcendence. If you don't have any empathy or compassion or understanding of someone's situation, you can't really help them. That's a key ingredient. You should have understanding about their situation, also have experienced transcendence from it. This is the benefit of 12-step programs. People who can't stop drinking or something, and they come into the meetings, you got both. You got people who are also in there that can't stop, and they know the hell that the other one's feeling, so there's some bond there, there's some understanding, something's like, oh, they understand me. Then you got people who've been sober 20, 30, 40, 50 years, so there's your transcendent people. So you got both. So this is what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying? All right, have a good day.